And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, with the TheJacksonRoykirk. He is having some internet issues, so hopefully we won't be talking to ourselves. But we're also joined by Night Tiger Comics, who is prepared to show us all kinds of great goodies should this interview not work out. We've got Meyer Greenblatt, Eric Breen, and Charlton66. And Jackson, it is good to have you on the show finally.
Yeah,
You're a great fan, and everybody loves you. And so we're going to give you a chance to dazzle everybody with your wit and wisdom. I'll start you off so you don't feel totally thrown into it. By a lot of people like to put their boxes in or their comics in nice boxes. I've been making some more covers to put on the box lids, and so I don't know what everybody else does. I also use a lot of these dividers. This one's for my Boris Karloff. So your mileage may vary. And so that's what we're going to start you off with, Jackson. How long have you been a collector, and what do you really like to collect the most? Take it away.
All right. Well, first off, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Appreciate it, and the kind words. And it's good to be here with all you fellas here, and Eric as well. And
never liked you.
Yeah.
No, really. It's what I mentioned the other day, Eric. I mean, with your knowledge of the industry, the stories you know, you can definitely be putting out some content for everyone to scoop up.
Well, I was telling him, and I think one time you dropped off, said you're. I was gonna say, we'll see if you're as witty verbally as you are in print, because your comments make me laugh. You and Black Cat make me laugh harder than anybody I've ever seen in the comments.
Yeah, I it's funny. I'm not quite as quick on the draw, when speaking like this. I don't know what it is. It's something. I guess the pressure or something is off, and I'm able to type it out a little bit faster and then come up with it that way. But as far as collecting, I'll give you a little precursor. When I was 5 years old, and this would be in 1968, my mother, I was in kindergarten. My mother goes to a school fair, and she comes home with comics. Now, I don't remember any of this, but she loves telling the story.
Now, this was the 1940s, right?
1968.
Oh, okay.
68, I thought I clearly said. But she comes home and hands me a little stack of comics. The school was trying to raise money. They're 5 cents a piece, something like that. And she says, I said, "Oh, comics." And I take them from her. So apparently I knew what they were. I said, "Comic books." Proceed to roll them up and march through the house.
Yeah.
And that was it, as far as I know, for comics. And what I did with them. I'm wondering, I want a time machine. I want at least a screen that will take me back in time and let me see just what I could have held on to. What was in 1968? Was it an FF 72 or no offense to Captain Strangelove, but I hope they were Harvey comics.
It wasn't like 1968 was the year that all the books got number ones when they split. I mean, you could have rolled up some gold mines.
Yeah.
Huh? That could have been Hulk
Submariner
102. Captain America 100.
Captain America 101.
Yeah.
I don't want to know. I guess I don't want to know. But so we jump forward. We jump forward to Christmas of 1974, and with the family and another couple and their daughter, the 6 of us are piled up in the station wagon, going to go pick out Christmas trees, throw them up on top of the station wagon, make our way home, and stop at a convenience store, probably just to get drinks or something. I see a spinner rack. Now, I probably noticed them before, but this time I actually approach it, pick out 2 books, and say, okay, this is what got this, bring it home. The most magical time in my life, reading these 2 books. Well, one of them in particular, the other one not so much. And that was it. That was it. I had already been getting some Peanuts paperbacks, reading comics that way. Those are humor. First exposure to superheroes, though, were these two books, and it was Fantastic Four, 155, and a Superman issue, which I can never remember the number. Read the Superman issue and felt a little insulted. The story was about another identity that Clark takes to apparently throw someone else off of off of his trail, and it just didn't seem it. I'm 11 years old, so I'm not no brilliant reader and knowledgeable person, but I felt like it was really just not for me. It was talking down to me almost. Now, had I kept that book, there was a story about that. Later on in the 80s, I unload a bunch of stuff, and that was one of them. Nick Carty cover. So I'm like, dang, I wish I had that now. it looks great.
I think that was 283, where he's like Chris DeWolf or something like that, the Wall Street
the
guy.
One. Yeah, that's it. Yep. And I just didn't resonate. And there was a second story, dealing with Mr. Mick Spitlick, and I don't remember. I don't remember it at all. I don't remember it at all. But Fantastic Four, 155, wow.
Speaking to that, I think the great thing about the Fantastic Four is everybody knows Johnny Storm is the Human Torch. They didn't waste decade after decade trying to protect Clark's identity. Now, some of those stories are really great, but when you have decade after decade of, Clark has to do this, Clark has to trick Lois this way, get her off the trail, at some point you kind of think, let's get to some other stories. But go ahead, sir.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, this introduced, it's the Silver Surfer attacks them. It's a battle royale, I think was the name of the issue. And again, I couldn't believe such things existed. And then I get to the last page, to be continued. What? What? That other book didn't do that, but the Superman book didn't do that. But oh man, it took me about 2 years before I got second and third parts to that, because I wasn't going around to so many convenience stores and spinner racks, and so missed out on it. Robert Bell to the rescue, sometime in 76 or so, or 77. I finally got the 2 parts I needed to finish the story. But that was my introduction, and I was lucky enough right after that to go to a convenience store close to home, only a few blocks, get some bread and milk, and look for spinner racks there. They didn't have one, but they had a huge magazine rack, and down on the bottom shelf were treasuries, and there was the Marvel grab bag, the Christmas special. So I'm getting this, and of course they're reprints, but I don't know that. These are all new to me. Again, this big giant. It's a giant book, and right next to it was Fantastic Four, the second treasury in the series. I think first one was Spider-Man, second was, and you can see the bottom portion or part of that book in my avatar. So I still have those treasuries. I still treasure those treasuries. And this one introduces the big three. I mean, Fantastic Four, 48, 49, and 50, along with 2 other earlier issues. So there I am right there in the introduction of Galactus and Silver Surfer. I'm like, hey, that's Silver guy again. All right.
Yeah.
And just dove into it from that point on. 75, 76, and 77, just scooping up what I could, mostly Marvel. An occasional DC, mainly Justice League, because teams appeal to me more. But yeah, and what was so nice, I mean, I'd start getting a few Avengers. I kept continuously getting the Fantastic Four whenever I could find them. experimented with a few things like Westerns, Ghost Rider and Son of Satan. I was grabbing everything, mostly Marvel again, and didn't see a lot of the other, Charlton or Gold Keys. We just didn't have a lot of that on the racks at the few convenience stores I went to. And so, yeah, just and what was great about a lot of this for Marvel, and I guess why I kept gravitating for them, is that, okay, here I'm starting to pick up a Spider-Man book right in the middle of the original Clone Saga. So good times there. Jerry Conway, I believe. The Avengers, first Avengers, 141, the first time that Perez does pages for Avengers, absolutely blew me away.
Wow.
I'd already been, reading for about a year when that one came out, and just his layouts, the line work, everything about it just went, who is this guy? What is this thing? Hunted his work down ever since. And you asked me, that's number one.
I remember the same thing reading issue 2 of the Inhumans. That was George Perez's early, I think that's first work in Marvel. I'm not sure. But number 1 wasn't all that good, but number 2 was like, he just grew leaps and bounds on his art. It was gorgeous.
Yeah.
I was having a discussion with someone though this week about the DC characters. They've been around since like the 30s, but there's no depth to them even today, to the character itself. But you go to Marvel, like Peter Parker or Tony Stark, and there's so much backstory on just their personal life and not as a superhero. That way, Marvel is so good.
That's a great point.
Oh yeah, they make you feel like you could know them. You said, somebody similar to this, or this is a person rather than a character.
I just read, I don't know what issue it was, but you know how it says, it gives you the little blurb with a picture for the next issue, like what's going to happen. Stay tuned because, and so the next things that were going to happen were in their personal life. It wasn't like there's a battle with Doom or anything. It was like, watch what happens when so-and-so in their relationship. And I'm like, how cool. I mean, you got to love these characters so much. You're concerned about their love life in the next issue.
And poor Aunt May. Oh, will she recover this time?
So a lot of that was marketing, though. That was Stan Lee's marketing genius. So the comics were already in a way an extension of the radio dramas, but Stan Lee took it even further by making them soap opera styled radio dramas for us. And so he really did inject he injected so much into it, Night Tiger, that they're almost, Marvel and DC are almost so dissimilar that they're completely different things when you look at the way the comics work, the way it's set up.
Like you said, he was a marketing genius, and he was trying out things behind Martin Goodman's back. And then some of those things Martin Goodman would catch on and go, get rid of that. And then he'd try something else. Like the Pop Art Productions was one of his blemishes, but it's a cool part of the history. There's an article I just read. It gives you the history from Timely forward as far as the insignias, like to mark the comic as like a Timely or an Atlas. So it talks about not the trade dress, but the company logo as the progression, and then what Stan Lee did with that when he was in charge. It's a really good article. It's on Blogspot. It's called Marvel in the Silver Age.
And Jackson, you were talking about your treasuries. I noticed that your avatar is the Fantastic Four #2.
Right.
Is that your favorite? Because I can see why that would be. That's my favorite, although the Hulk treasuries are my second choice. I don't want to speak for Eric. I'm sure his favorite is probably Spider-Man versus Superman. But is that your favorite? Is that why you chose it?
It is. It is. Again, being that the FF's my favorite team, because that was the first, regular comic that I got. And then when I found the treasury, now the first treasury I got was the Christmas grab bag. But that's all, Christmas stories, and you don't pull that out all the time, or you could, but But as far as this one, and again introducing the Galactus and Silver Surfer story, going through all the treasuries, that has to be the favorite. And it was early. I mean, this was in the first month or two of me reading. So those couple of books. I mean, there's a Marvel Team Up 31 or something, or it was one of the other ones that I was getting a few little things here and there.
Okay.
Like we're saying about the histories of all these characters, what was good about 11, 12-year-old me getting the Marvel books is that they had all the reprint titles: Marvel Tales, Marvel Triple Action, Marvel's Greatest Comics, for the FF reprints. So I'm moving forward and backward at the same time, getting these other these reprint titles. So I'm getting to learn about the characters quickly. Again, pretty good marketing on their part. I mean, if they're going to flood the spinner racks with titles, that's a great way to do it. And they had plenty of, later on, much older looking at all the other reprints, all the horror titles that they had. That was one thing that I like I said, I dabbled with a few other of the genres, but was, primarily all the money went to the superheroes.
Who's your favorite superhero for Marvel?
Probably Ben Grimm.
Nice.
Just for the struggles. Like so many things Stan did, going back and reading all of the first 100, 200 books, he played that up every month. He was happy, he was sad, he was dejected, he was, you see it over and over. But when you're first starting out, these are all new. The first year that you read this, you don't see all of that Aunt May sick every other season, And so his struggles, like, poor him, it's like, yeah, okay. I can go along with you on that, Ben. Sorry for you.
Jackson, when you read a Fantastic Four now, do you hear the thing in Miranya's voice?
That is so clever. I love how when Ben is thinking, he speaks very clearly and concisely.
Yes.
And then, hey, buddy, it's so cool. It is so good. You guys have ruined so many characters for me. Thank you.
You're very welcome. We've even broken Micah.
Yeah.
He was so stoic when he started. And now, last week, he even laughed when someone dropped an F-bomb.
Oh.
That's how far
it's not the geeky puppet show. It's the Corruptors show or something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Did you ever discover the little paperbacks? Like, I remember when I first found the little Hulk paperback that did those first 6 issues. I thought that was gold, dynamite.
Well, yeah, that was. I have one. I have a Justice League one. I don't know what it reprints, and it was something else. It was one other. It wasn't Marvel though. It was. They were both DCs, and yeah, I do have a few of those. And then much later, only in the last few years, I tracked down the first 4 of the Conan paperbacks.
Yeah,
because I'd become a Conan fan in the new millennium. But yeah, it's funny you mentioned paperbacks. I was going to my next point was that after entering high school, so we're going into 77 through into 78. The freshman year, I was still collecting, but not as much. I had discovered Starlog magazine, and in there they talk about Star Trek and reinforced my love of Star Trek. And I started buying paperback novels, and so limited funds. Even going with a friend of mine, we'd go down to not far from where I lived at a used paperback store, and you can get some for $0.25. But the comics were $0.25. Comics for 30 cents. Comics for 35 cents. So I'm like, wait a minute. So I kind of got swayed, or I broadened. It was a broadening. I'd look at other graphic forms of books that were advertised and mentioned, and articles written in Starlog. Boris Vallejo, oh my God, that his paintings just blew me away. I was like, look at this kind of art, And so I was distracted, and my focus went to other areas. Starting in high school and then moving in the second year of high school, focus turns to other things there. And so I'm primarily looking at just paperback novels. Discovered Edgar Rice Burroughs through a friend who had gifted me a Tarzan book while I was recovering from appendectomy. So I'm starting to read Burroughs. I'm starting to read all of the Martian Tales, the Moon. I think there were 3 issues for that, three novels for that. I was looking through my collection or going through my little database of things preparing for this, and it looks like around the fall of '78, with Fantastic Four number 200, ironically, was where I pretty much stopped. And so for 79, 80, 81, I was not buying comics at all. Looking again for some sci-fi stuff instead. And so, so I leave. What a point to leave. I missed the Dark Phoenix saga.
Yeah.
I missed the start of the New Teen Titans with my favorite artist. So later on, I was able to backtrack some of that. Not the X-Men stuff though. Prices were just ridiculous, but I was able to complete the Titans run.
Cool.
From 1 all the way up to after they relaunched the Baxter stuff, it well into that era as well. So looking at Starlog, and they had a sister publication that came out called Comic Scene. I'm finding out about this explosion of stores that sell only comics. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And the different there's something called an independent comic company and all this. So I'm reading all of this and hopefully learning about it, but not getting involved in it yet. Going to the bookstores with my friend, come across a copy of ElfQuest, the trade for the first, I think it's 4 or 5 issues. And I said, I remember reading about this in Starlog. And look at the art, look at the colors. What can they do with colors now on this glossy paper? And Glynis Wein or Lynn Wynn's wife, who was doing this, she was my favorite colorist at Marvel. She's doing the book inside. Look at this stuff. Had to get it. And then at the same time, again, first part of 82, in a little area that I would go or family would go to purchase things, a 3-block span. You can go to the bank, grocery store, hardware store, a couple of clothing stores, right in the middle. And I mean, in the middle on the second block, a comic store opens.
Nice.
And I'm amazed. I wish I had pictures of this place, because when I say it's big, it's not just because it was all new. It was very long. It was 3 or 4 rooms length. They'd opened the walls. And so it was just about 3 rooms long, and this guy had wooden shelves spanning the entire length. You'd walk on one side, you go around and walk on the other side. I mean, that's common now, or mostly, but this is January 1982. I'm out of school. I'm working. Didn't go into college until a few years later, until 87. So I had a little money to spend, and using books that I had foolishly from the 70s, bringing in my Westerns, bringing in my Supernaturals, bringing in I don't know what else, along with Mad magazines, Cracked magazines. Why? But looking for money to buy all these new things. I brought all that in. I don't remember I remember bringing the comics to them, but I don't remember all the magazines. That maybe some of those got lost in moves. From 77 to 83, I moved 4 or 5 times. But why did I get rid of those? I don't know. But here I am looking at all these new things. What is this? A graphic novel. It's the size of a treasury, but look at the art. Look at the new story in here from Jim Starlin, graphic novel #1, Death of Captain Marvel. I remember Captain Marvel. He dies? What's happening to this world of comics?
Yeah.
And that was it from 82 all the way to about 96. I was in that shop all as much as I could. And scooping up all kind of things. I mean, not necessarily Marvel. I was noticing a few things from DC, experimenting a little bit, but not quite as much because it was Marvel's Epic line. I enjoyed the Epic line. I got several of those titles: Alien Legion, Dreadstar. Look, Jim Starlin, I know him from back in the 70s. You know, this is what he's doing. Oh, this is nice. Marvel Fanfare. There's my friend Perez. Where's he been? I didn't know he had transferred. He'd moved over to DC. So here's Perez. Yeah, 80, 82, 83, 84. It was almost as good as 74, 75, and 76.
Yeah.
You know, finding all of these things, moving away from some of the traditional stuff to some of this newer stuff. Crisis on Infinite Earths comes along, opens me up to DC for a change. And so I'm buying primarily that. I'm still getting Marvel. I was sucked into the Marvel Mutant Mayhem, buying too many of that. And, you know, as those years start going by, as we get into the late 80s, early 90s, we get all the gimmick covers, the multiple covers. And yes, I bought my share of X-Men #1, all 5 covers. I still have a box, yes. So I'm getting a little disillusioned with it. So now we're coming into the early 90s. I'm getting kind of like, oh, Death of Superman. Yeah, that was a big thing. Bought into all of that. And now you're starting to milk it. A whole half a year or whatever for Funeral. Another year to return him back. Oh, it's got a mullet now. Thor's not Thor anymore. The Hulk can think. I'm getting disillusioned. Along comes, and this won't be a very popular thing, but along comes Valiant. Jim Shooter, I remember him. He wrote some of those great Avengers books in the 70s. He's building a new world, new characters, and a few licensed ones. I was happy again. So here we are again at the beginning of a decade, 92, 93, where I'm reading this stuff again instead of just buying it for the gimmick and the collection. Eventually that kind of sours. Luckily, Malibu shows up with the Ultraverse and some of their other licensed titles, like some of their Star Trek stuff. So I'm happy again, 95, 96, and then, Marvel buys them out, destroys Malibu. And their mutant craze is just unbelievable. I would get some of the issues, not read them. I'm like, I'm wasting money, I'm wasting time. Oh Lord, the Image was all running along in the background. You're giving these guys too much. Now you're going to give all your mainstay Marvel characters to them to destroy. I'm out. I'm done. 96, 97, I stopped collecting completely. I had a new job. It was taking up a lot of time. New girlfriend. So fine. I didn't miss it. As things started to settle down in 2000, 2001, I found myself wandering back to the comic shop again for a little relief and to see if I can recapture things. Found out that the Perez had gone back to Marvel, did the Avengers, so here I am buying new and old, backtracking again.
Yeah.
Moving forwards and backwards to try and complete that collection and get my favorite artist. Still not too enticed by either of the main companies. Not finding too much in the way. I got some Dark Horse stuff in the past, but I wasn't really looking to go down the rabbit hole until around 2004 or 5, when Infinite Crisis, all the lead up to that starts on DC, and I became a huge DC fan again. No Marvel, the whole mutant stuff, the House of M just did not entice me. Stuck with DC until about 2009. They kept having one crisis after another, and I'm like, no, too much. 2010 comes along, and I drop everything again. But this time I'm staying kind of aware of what's going on, and pretty much focusing myself on trades at that point. I had gotten into Conan trades in the early 2000s from Dark Horse. Again, maybe not popular. A lot of people hate the recoloring that Dark Horse did on the books. I love it. Maybe because that was my real introduction to Conan. I knew about him. I saw some books, but never got anything. With the Dark Horse stuff, really, again, blown away, and became a Conan fan all through those books. And said, yeah, this is the way I'm going to go. I mean, I can't go back and get all those back issues. I'll wait until things come out. And then I saw the things that like DC and Marvel were doing. Put out 6 books, make a trade. Put out 6 more books, make a trade. You know, so I was like, my friend Bill, who had been through all the clone saga with Spider-Man and all the Batman Dark, was it Night Quest, Nightfall, Night this, Night that. You know, he was Batman was he spent everything on Batman and Spider-Man titles, and you could. I mean, they had so many of them in the 90s. So he would keep abreast of things from Wizard, and we'd kind of just look at what was going on in the industry until about, like I said, around 2011 or so. And my focus was on Back Issue magazine to look at the stuff that I missed during the 70s, to find out more about things that I did know about and had in the collection. So I was looking at Back Issue magazine and trades, and that was pretty much it. Because I was doing things and getting information from Tomorrow's Comics because of Back Issue and somewhat Alter Ego. They have an email, so we're going into 2016 now. They have an email mentioning a gentleman who had received a preview copy of one of their books and gave it his review. So they wanted people to see the review. I click on the link. I'm pulled into YouTube and Captain Strangelove.
Oh yeah.
I was getting ready to segue. Who was your first fossil? I always assumed it was Jambo.
No.
But go ahead.
No, but so open that Pandora's box of YouTube community members. Thanks to Captain Strangelove. Thanks to Tomorrow's for, sending him that advanced copy of the book. That's the one we talked about a few weeks back, Eric. I can't think of it. Comic Book Fever, which is hard to find now. I didn't get it at the time, which I'm sorry I didn't. So maybe the captain wasn't as good of a salesman for them, but he mentions Silver Age Dave, he mentions Metarog, and we're off and running now. And what I've still was primarily looking for trades of 70s titles and stories that I missed out on or gave away, sold, or just had too many holes in it to bother with. Like, yeah, I can hunt. I like the hunt, but there comes a time when, look, it doesn't look the same. You don't get the ads. You don't get the letter spaces, which I hate. But I have to kind of streamline it a little bit and focus on the trades. Well, this community has helped me, start going back to the floppies and looking for those back issues. And trying to focus on short run things like last year I completed the Black Goliath because there's only 5. I mean, that's attainable.
Sure.
Look at this one, Shanna the She-Devil. Oh, there's only 5 of those.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, there's only 5, but no. So I'm getting some floppies. I'm getting several, and a few new items here and there, but not really. I mean, I tried Marvel's when Marvel got the rights back to Conan. I tried those books. One had a good story, but or art. The other one had great art, but
The Savage
story.
the Savage Avengers. Is that what you're talking about?
No. They had 2 Conan titles. They started, I think, in 2018. One was Conan the Barbarian. They relaunched that title, and the other one was the Savage Sword of Conan. They started that as a comic rather than a magazine like they had in the 70s. So there were 2 Conan titles before they brought him into the present.
Right.
And
Did you get a chance to read the Savage Avengers?
I have not.
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, all those modern books don't have enough pages to tell enough story, but I thought it was pretty good for what it was.
That's why, and it's a shame, but that because I know a lot of their practices now, I will, if I'm looking at a new title, I'll get the first issue and decide from that if I want to go further, and then wait for the trade. Now, is that a good thing? I don't know. It's not. Is it great for the industry?
If it's what you like, then it's a good thing for you.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's the great thing about the community. There's everything for everybody. What somebody likes, they have it, and we all like something different.
Yeah, Jackson, I'm always thrilled when I find somebody that shares my love of Funny Animal, and so I know you were wanting to show some files earlier with Snoopy and the Peanuts. Did you still want to try that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of went through, and I'll just flip through them real quick because it went along with my little story, but I've spoken a lot, but yeah, if you don't mind, I wouldn't
try
mind
to send that
showing
over. And ladies and gentlemen, we had a little trouble while he's doing that. He kept dropping a few times, so we hope this doesn't disrupt his internet connection. But while he's doing that,
window.
I will mention that Jambo really wanted to be here, but he couldn't make it.
He was afraid. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's right.
No, I don't know how that really got started because if anybody says you've got a nemesis in the YouTube community, it's Comic Mag Musings.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I will point out that he started it. He started it one night when he mentioned me and referenced certain things about bedtime and milk and cookies, and he started it. And he and I, and look, he's my best friend now. We communicate all the time, and yeah, that he's a younger brother I didn't have. But somehow this little thing with Jambo got started, and I don't know exactly how that got started. But are you seeing anything, Mike?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the Jambo stuff started when I made a cover of a monster attacking the 4-color fossils.
Yeah.
And you said one of them was Jambo being killed, so that's when I noticed it. So.
Yeah. So I love it. That's been great finding this community. A lot of fun. A lot of money spent because of the fossils and others. But so let's see. So you're seeing the Fantastic Four there?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the book that started it all.
Killer cover.
But prior to that, as I said, from school, the Scholastic book service or book club, 3rd grade or second grade, the first thing that I got was the Snoopy book. And and that's what we kept calling it, was Snoopy, And I had a godmother who found out I liked it and started just bombarding me with paperbacks.
I just picked it up.
Here's a Snoopy book. Well, it's the Peanuts later you find out, but yeah, this is a real
You've been brained. You've been brained.
Yeah,
you got it. I still have my original copy. It's not too beat up, but it was enough that I wanted to get myself another copy, a cleaner copy, and actually mentioning Comic Mag Musings, he's a big Peanuts fan, and I sent this to him to give to his son for Christmas. I got 2 copies, one for myself, one for him. I said, this is where I started. He's a little bit older, or about a little bit the same age, his son, and so let's give him this. I wanted him to hopefully understand and share in the quirkiness of this title and of Charles Schultz's brilliance, really.
I have to believe every American kid, either the 60s, 70s, and 80s, touched one of these books at one point in their childhood.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that was, about 2 years before finding this, but so we'll just go through this. I mean, I mentioned, and this is the Superman book that just.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one. That's a cool one.
It had to go in the early 80s. Again, looking at the cover, I was like, oh man, yeah, I didn't know Nick Cardy. I didn't know there weren't too many artists in the 70s, but except for Perez, his name just came out to me. There's the Treasury.
Nice.
Treasury. Again, the same Christmas, about a week after finding those 2, this magical Christmas happened. This magical December happened. And there's the book that you see on the Avatar. I'll go through the rest of these pretty quick. So I continued to collect my. This issue here, for anyone who was around and for people watching the replay, if you look at the second Saturday morning with Dr. Silver Age and
Shannon,
with Rod and Shannon. Shannon mentioned something that my friend Paul, who was a good friend who had already gotten into comics and kind of showed me some of his collection and something that his older brother had as well. He came up with this idea of using tracing paper, carbon paper, and what we called back then typing paper to transfer the image. You would lay the tracing paper on the top, put a sheet of carbon paper and a sheet of typing paper underneath that, and you'd mash down as hard as you could on all. And so there I am, each and every individual little brick of the thing, mashing down hard through it onto the typing paper, and then the typing paper would be pretty faint, so you would ink it in. You'd go over, and I said, hey, I could be an inker. Maybe I'll be an inker. I don't. Somebody else's pencils, I can go over that. Of course, that never happened. But I was mentioning that when he mentioned that, I said, oh, good. Somebody else did that too, and he was excited to find out that I did it as well. I still have this issue. The creases in every one of those bricks is still deeply embedded into that cover. I recently, again, because of this community in around 2018 or so, I got a lot, and I mean, from eBay or so, a lot of FF books that had this in it. So I have a newer, cleaner copy that's also not missing the Marvel stamp in the back. Yes, I have a lot of FFs that have the stamp cut out, which kills me. But I did that. So I kept going, and then I said, oh, wait a minute, the logo changed. The logo changed. How did that? What is this? What's going on with these titles? Of course, the trade dress now. Excuse me.
Right.
Another treasury. Love of the team ups. This issue, look, every color on there. It's just
it's great art.
Great issue.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, we shall see. We shall see some. We shall see some more. And of course, in the middle of the Clone Saga.
Yeah.
The original, the only. I skipped a few issues, but here's the where it all comes to a head.
Right.
And yes, the clone dies. Okay, he's dead. He was thrown down a smokestack. There's no way he survived. Right.
Right.
Here's the Perez issue, and sorry, we don't want the alarm to go off. But,
No.
but
Not
to
on a
me,
Monday.
yeah, that's right. It doesn't work on a Monday. Huh? It has the day off too. Ramita's doing so much work over this though that I wouldn't normally think of it as that way. But again, Perez, boom, first issue, first thing I ever find with him. Oh my God. They made a binder, a folder
Yeah.
with this picture on it. I know
Yeah.
I still have mine. Beat the hell. Of course, Metarog, Roger has his in pristine condition.
Are you talking about the binder that had the 6 covers on it?
No, this is. You mean they were.
It was like a Trapper Keeper.
No, that I didn't have. I didn't have that. This was just strictly a two. What do you call a bifold with a little slip, a little folder on each side.
Okay, because they had one that had this, the Fantastic Four 159.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Hulk. There was a Captain America 193 and a couple others.
Right.
And I still have mine because I was smart enough to not even think about taking it to school.
Yeah. They that was so cool. That was the other thing, that really was so fun about this time was all of the merchandising. They took this cover. There's that Thor that they made, the Trapper. They made a folder.
Yeah.
They made iron-on sheet. You can iron on your shirt. Probably a poster. They kept using those same 6 images for everything, and it was just so fun to collect. Or to get. Oh, I got this binder. I got this thing. Like you're talking about. But yeah,
T-shirts was going up at about the same time, about 1975. It was like the marketing was opening up, and I got my first like Thor and the Hulk picture from local stores.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Again, we don't want the alarm to go off. But Mr. Perez was not, established enough to get his own covers. Oh, don't let that. That's quintessential. That's quintessential
Keep
Kane
your
right
hand
there.
off the button.
That's quintessential Kane. I mean, look at it. Drink it in, Eric.
I am.
Oh, that's a great issue.
Yeah, I bet he is drinking it.
He's drinking. And then finally, he gets his own. He gets to have his own covers. So, and then what? A membership drive. What is this? Going back, reading all those original issues. Oh, it's like a club, and they have a chairman, and they have. Oh, okay, all right. Another great set of books.
Cover. Yeah, nice.
Like, okay, this hero. Oh, and he's got this woman with him. Oh, it's a team up book. Again, excellent stuff. And again, we have to be careful here.
Right.
I live more dangerously than
You sure do.
than Eric does. But yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Then we look at this and we do this. I was like, wait. Oh, you have to buy this one before you can read this one. And I was buying Marvel team-ups, but now I got to go back and find the 2-in-1s. A crossover. That's such a cool idea. They should do that more often.
Oh yeah.
Those 2 books were published. The 2-in-1 was published in Team Up and vice versa, because the creative teams for the 2 books were the opposite on those in those 2 issues.
So they switch.
Yeah, for whatever reason.
You see, my sir, we need to take that little excerpt out of here, that little bit of knowledge, and post it as its own individual video. I didn't know that. That's amazing. But yeah, crossovers. Oh, let's do some more crossovers. Yeah, okay. And then the 80s and 90s come along. But here's what I was talking about. Getting reprints to help establish more of the characters, the histories, and learn more and get to feel more connected to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, so we go on. But the other thing that was interesting at the same time to find out the origins and histories, Dynamite, again, a school thing, right? A scholastic book thing. They had 1-page origin stories and a 2-page story of some sort. Why I didn't hold on to these, Lord only knows. I would have loved to have reread they condensed the origin one page. So good.
Mm-hmm.
So good. You found out everything you needed to know quickly, and then you can move on into and that was the whole deal. They wanted to expose kids to that. I wasn't quite a Marvel snob. I did get a few. All of these are from my collection. I mean, I stole the pictures from mycomicshop.com, and if anybody from my comic shop sees this, please don't thank you for putting these up here. But yeah, so I did get my share of DC. So like, what villains have their own book? What?
Mm-hmm.
And I love the twist. And I was like, wait, these are other characters. These are from another Earth. Whoa, 2 Earths. Wow. Not only were there 2, there were 3, and then come to find out there were infinite numbers. But again, stories, okay, but I love the characters. Did get a few magazines. The only 2 that I really got and kept, thank God. Right here, these 2. And then, as I mentioned, finding Starlog got me into learning about other things, moving on to other forms of graphic art, reinforcing my love of Star Trek and getting paperbacks. Most of these I read during the summer months, but it did distract me and take away some of my time from the comics. So that, like I mentioned, this is probably the last thing that I got in fall of '78. Moving on to just reading novels, getting involved with a long-running series. These short stories were really great. So yeah, I'm reading short stories. I'm reading novels, and then again, as I mentioned, in late '81, early '82, this comes onto the scene where I can find out about. I said, "Oh, comics are different now," and sure enough, they'd really changed. And there we go, number 1. So I again pull that off of the shelves. Somebody was talking the other day about finding comics, piles on shelves when they were new in the comic stores. And I'm like, it wasn't too long that I experienced that because, like I said, this guy, I think they were funded by another store that specialized in old vinyl. Because back then, that's all we had was vinyl. All we had were vinyl and 45s, and so they had a huge store. So they had money to invest in this second store for the comics, and it wasn't long before they had the shelving on the wall, the slots, on the wall to put the books. And so it wasn't too long that I would pick up new books right flat stacked onto a shelf. But yeah, finding all of these things. And somebody said, "Oh, you got to try this book. It's the number 1 title." Okay, and it was good for a while. It was. And then what's this mini series? 4 books? That's all it's supposed to be? Oh, this guy, yeah, he's from that X book. Yeah, okay, let me try that out. And again, there's Perez, rediscovering him, going, wow, look at his work now. So again, looking at some of the. Oh yeah, my other Perez was my favorite artist in the '70s and into the '80s. Steve Englehart was my favorite writer for the '70s. And then more of this. So I'm not buying mainstream. I'm not buying too much of the mainstream other than the X titles. Experimenting, but yet not going quite as far as Pacific and Eclipse and all of those. And then, like I said, this comes along and sucks me in deeply into the universe. This book here was a godsend to find and track down. There's an index at the back of it. So I was able to go back and look up the bronze issues that I didn't even know about or had missed or needed, and did a pretty good share of filling in the holes and filling out that list. I'd have to look at it again. I I'm sure there are a few things that I didn't get. Some of the magazines, the black and white stuff that he did, although I might have that now. Looking at the independents. Oh, here's this guy Starlin again. Now we're going way off. Looking, never saw anything like this before. But hey, Frank Miller likes it. Okay. And then, like I said, losing interest and then picking it up again with the Valiant titles. Oh, there's that Perez guy again. Of course, this, right? Find out what you need to get. And
There you
how
go.
much you're going to have to pay for it.
I know
again,
who started looking up comics in that thing once you saw the price guide.
Oh, yeah. Again, starting to lose interest in the. They sucked me back in with this. Oh, there's that Englehart guy again on this issue as well. Steve Gerber. Wow, there's a name I haven't heard in eons. He's back. Wow. There were a lot of Marvel guys at the Ultraverse. And probably another reason why Marvel wanted to buy them out. Oh, there's that Perez guy again. All right, yeah. Look at the colors. Look at the... Oh, man. And then we jumped. Like I said, I stopped with all of the Marvel Mutant Madness and the selling out of the characters and Reborn, indeed. And then finally returned. But again, not going whole heart into the comics, looking for trades. I just love these books. These books are so good. Looking at DC again and saying, okay, yeah, there's something here. Even though leaving the House of M and all of that behind, not even bothering with it. Looking at DC. But then they start milking it and start, oh, there's a Perez again. And then we get to this point and I said, okay, it's Flashpoint time to jump off. 52, yeah. That was time to leave. So again, I'm looking at old glories or whatever you want to call it, looking back in the past with all of these. Deathlock, one of my favorite characters. And looking more and more into the trades. Even delving into the Silver Age. Now we talk about the covers and that the interiors aren't, don't always match up, but this title does. Russ Manning.
Yes. Also on Tarzan. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody said it was his Tarzan of the future. I'm like, yeah, I get that. So long.
Oh yeah.
Oops. And then looking back again, looking at some more Silver Age stuff. These are trades of the Masterworks. These aren't the hardcovers. There was no way I was going to buy those, but I'd find some of these and had to hunt some of them down because they were out of print pretty quickly. I love the recoloring on these covers. Again, some people don't. They want to see the original things. I would like to have seen the whole book done like this. Let's take that class, and we saw this earlier, way back in the beginning of the stream. Let's take this classic art and give it the new colors. I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. That might be a little too red, but and then still looking too at a few new titles. Again, I'd pick up one or two issues and go, okay, I'll take the trade of that. I enjoyed this TV show and thought it was pretty faithful. The original issues were pretty faithful and had the characters' voices right. And then in 2018 and 19, deciding again through people from the community, I was going to hunt down and get all of these black and white magazines that I'd missed. Glad I got them when I did, because now most of them are just ridiculously priced.
Yeah.
Yep.
I did not get all that I wanted to. I have a complete set of Conan from 1 to 83. Some scattered issues around 100 and some scattered issues right after 200. I'm primarily looking for all the Roy Thomas work. I'll worry about the other ones maybe, but I've got so much now. All I need, or all I have time for, is going to be the Roy Thomas stuff. But I found several lots really good. I can't believe the condition they came in, and was blessed by that. And actually, that number one, the Conan number one, I was fortunate enough when I mentioned that I had from 2 to 60. Comic Mag Musings went out and found me a number one, and okayed it to me. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I have him to thank very much for this first issue. But yeah, a couple other things I'd gotten, just some more magazines. So I was looking completely into the past by the time 2017, 18, 19 comes around, looking to recapture all of the 70s items that I had missed, or like I said, just had so many holes in it, it was just worth just going in and get the trade. Some things that I skipped on completely, like this Monster of Frankenstein. So glad I got it. Enjoy those issues. Tiger. And then the Epic collections have been a huge. I hope they don't discontinue this line. Eric, if you ever know anything about it, let me know so I can write them nasty letters.
The only problem with them is they go out of print too quick.
Yes. So I had
and
one or
they
two
didn't, they didn't do Master of Kung Fu 3 like they should have.
No, I have the 1 and 2 luckily, and this one they need to get back on board with. I mean, they had this first issue, they had a reprint of it, and still no volume 2. And then here we are back at the most recent one that I got, which is almost approaching. I think this runs up to 146. So we're almost approaching where I started. I have some of these. I did go back and track and get some of these back in the 70s, but they're damaged with the Marvel value stamp being cut out, or the covers are a little ripped or something. So I'm getting the trades just to relive those stories again, have them all in one place. And so, like I said, yeah, we're almost right back up to where I started with the collection. Yep. And so that's about all I can show from that.
Very nice.
So are you trying to track down any floppies these days? Any particular series or?
Not a lot. If I run across some things, like I said, I was looking for like short run items. There are a few. Well, I did actually this past right at the beginning of the year, I did place an order with my comic shop because looking at those Valiant books, I had a box that were unread, that were bagged but not boarded. I needed to get all of that, and finding that I had holes in that group. And I'm like, well, I want to read these. I want to get back into it and read this set. So let me plug the holes in first. And so I did make a 18 book order or something like that from my comic shop. They love me.
Oh yeah, I shop there all the time.
But they're not. I mean, Valiants. I mean, we're talking. There was one book. The one that introduces Turok was the most expensive. It was $13, and they gave me $1 from making an order recently from like a week before. So I got that for $12. The rest of them were $1 and $2. I mean, you can get those Valiants not now. As I start reading through these and I get to the end of the line, a lot of them I had already stopped getting the titles. I could tell from the covers. I could tell from the fact that they were bought out by Acclaim, that it just became all video game related and pushed. That I stopped a lot of the titles. So as I get closer to finishing this line, I may find out, there was a reason why that these aren't valuable. But the first year and a half, I love of that.
Hey, Mike, sorry to interrupt, but I got to take off. So I said, Jackson, it was really nice finally getting to hear you.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can do it again, because I do have some questions. Let me ask you real quick. I said, when people, I'm always fascinated by when people started in the hobby. and we started about a year apart. You're a year younger than me, which means you're old as you know what. But we both kind of started late for comic book collecting. But yeah, I think like what makes people who started so long ago stay in it basically in some way, shape, or form forever. And I'm more like, for me, it was that you had treasuries, magazines. Marvel had the reprint series going. You know, like I got Superman, Spider-Man like 2 months after I started buying. So I mean, it's like perfect timing. Do you think that the time that you got into it had anything to do with why you're still hanging around today? Because I don't know how kids that start now. I mean, what's the incentive to stay in?
Yeah, there is none.
Yeah, you know, I think it could be. I mean, excuse me. I think. Do we know of anybody who started in the '60s? Well, I guess Captain Strangelove to some degree, but
Also
I just think
great time to start.
I think it's right, exactly, and I think it's what Meyer was talking about earlier, or actually Mike was talking about, that the characters resonate, or there's just something about them that seems a little bit more real, or you know, hey, this could be, or it could happen. I mean, yeah, most of it's too far fetched, but I don't know. I think well, and look, we didn't talk about all the things I collect. A lot of music, you know, a lot of at that time vinyl, and then later CDs. Music at that time was just fabulous. I think it's whatever you discover in your teen years when you're changing your idea of what to like. Now, why did we stick with it? I don't know. For me, I mean, I've had some experiences, I've had things, but not a lot, and so this is a nice getaway. It still is, although, like I said, the newer stuff doesn't appeal to me. So I don't know if you're going to find kids in their teens who discover books now that will stick with them. Maybe time will tell.
Yeah, I don't see how. But one more thing real quick before I go is, like I said, I got started because of my brother. He quit about 8 months in, never looked back, and I'm still going. And this was 1976 that he quit. So I'm gonna say that's kind of interesting, like what makes people stick around. But Micah, thank you for including me in this. And if I don't see you guys before then, I will see you Wednesday. And again, Jackson, nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you, Eric. And thank you for coming.
Yeah, Jackson, let me ask you a question, and then I'm sure Night Tiger is probably itching to show us something. So you're a Star Trek guy.
Yeah.
And of course the name Kirk, the TheJacksonRoykirk. Anything you want to tell us about that? I don't remember the time period you stopped collecting, but because of your Star Trek fondness, did you also go to Micronauts and ROM and Battlestar Galactica? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the sci-fi stuff definitely. I mean, I was always, even before discovering comics, I was watching Star Trek every weeknight. 6 o'clock. On the local independent station. They thank goodness for reruns, and I mean that's what built Desilu Studios and the whole syndicated rerun stuff. Was all of that. So sci-fi was always there. And maybe that's to some degree why the comics, it was like, it's got a science fiction element, it's got a fantasy element, it's got something. But yeah, I watched Space 1999 when it came out and thought it was the greatest thing until realizing, well, maybe not.
Right.
And then of course Star Wars comes along. So Battlestar Galactica being an imitation of that. So yeah.
Did you pick up ROM or Micronauts?
No, I picked up a few Micronauts and the toys and the comics, and I didn't really find the comics all that interesting. Yeah, I dropped them. I mean, I didn't continue with them. ROM, not at all. Again, I wasn't into the toy itself. I didn't really even pay attention to the fact that may have been, was that in between 79 and 81. I think a lot of that stuff happened, so I didn't pick up any of that. Of course, TheJacksonRoykirk, the name comes from an episode called The Changeling, and the way the story goes is that an inventor from around the late 1990s, I think it was, created a probe to go out and search space, and his name was JacksonRoykirk. And the whole basis of the story is the mistaking that the robot has, the probe has, in mistaking Captain Kirk for Jackson Roykirk. So I took the name from that. A friend of mine told me I should take the avatar, I should take the picture of Jackson that they use in the episode as my avatar. I'm like, no, people will think I look like that. You know, and he was actually the director of the episode. Gene L. Kuhn, I think, was the one, and so they photographed him in this little uniform and used that on the view screen when they mentioned Jackson Roykirk. So I'm like, the name came about because in the mid 90s, after leaving comics in 96, 97, I got involved, got on the internet, got involved with the Star Trek chat group, and everything was just chat. I mean, there's no video, there's no nothing. It's just people typing. And I said, well, I got to come up with a name, and I don't know where it came from. I don't think anybody suggested. I just picked that. Well, my friend Bill, who's a big Star Trek fan as well, he says, pick a name. You know, don't pick Spock, don't pick Kirk. You know, don't pick a name of the major character or even some of the known guest stars. You know, don't pick somebody random. And so I just dug through and found the name and went, yeah, nobody. You know, the people who know will know.
Right.
You know? And so so then when I created the YouTube channel, I said, well, let me just use that. And that was it. That's where the name came from and where it's been.
Yeah, this episode is called Jackson Roykirk, the Man of Mystery, and I just want everybody that's watching to know that that is not your name on your birth certificate. So, and as we say hello to Paulo, who's chosen to join us at this time.
Hey, Paulo.
What's up?
Hello, nice to meet you, sir.
He just
Finally.
did a great impression of you a few minutes ago. So, felt like a slideshow of yours.
Yeah, with the slides. Yes.
I bet Night Tiger wants to show us something. So, Mike, if you could show us about 10 or 12 really good books,
All right.
we'll go straight to you.
Well, I bought this crate for 20. I've already pulled this out of it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Probably a Fine Plus, another Fine Plus. Pulled that out too.
Cool.
And there's more in there. I'll keep that a secret. I went to the flea market today, bought a lot of comics, meaning a stack of one for a certain price. Let me see here. Put them all together. And then I'll show you what I got. Okay, so I got this for 100. So the guy said 150, and I'm like, I don't have that much. He goes 120. I'm like, I said, I still don't have these. Like, how much do you have? I'm like, not even anything near that. So he goes 100, and I'm like, I'm not even going to ask anything more. I'm buying it. So I got that.
Cool.
I mean, it's missing this, but as cheap as it was, it's not like a book you can find every day.
No, and that's the best sparkler I've always wanted. Him shooting that dinosaur now. That's awesome. That's awesome.
And this.
Wow.
Oh, poor Eric missed that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah.
And not a king size Marvel, but a queen size Marvel.
Yep.
Ah,
That was so clever.
And I think this is pre-Negative Man from the Doom Patrol. I don't know if that had anything to do with inspiring the character. This is from 1957, number 88.
cool.
And then some pre-code John Severin Western.
Beautiful.
This entire issue is John Severin art from cover to interior. Number 91 from 1952.
All seven. That's awesome.
And this one is Severin cover and one Severin story. One Severn interior art story.
Cool.
What's going on in the
And-
corner there for the W?
It's got some kind of insignia. I think that's a distributor.
Just like faded? Oh, okay.
What do you mean? It's the camera, the light.
All right. Super.
No, these are really nice looking. And then the two real money books were this one,
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice
That's
Harley.
killer.
and this is my second copy, so I'm really excited.
That's cool.
You don't find them unless this isn't high grade, but you don't find them normally like this. They're usually rags.
Mm-hmm.
And then my first Cowgirl Romance. So I just pressed it and took the spine roll out of it. Really nice copy. The centerfold's attached, unfortunately, but still, this more than covers the lot. And that's that. I went back to the guy. This guy had, I don't know, about 20 boxes. 1.5 were Golden Age stuff. And he was just cutting deals. So I got this one for 20, 1940, number 56. Just a really cool cover, nice shape. I mean, it's got a little bit going on the spine, but for $20, this is a nice book.
Does Wimpy win the fight?
I don't know. I haven't read it yet. I just got it. And then I got this one from him for 10. Nice copy.
Very cool.
I mean, he had tons of silver and bronze. And this one for 10.
Wow.
Dan DiCarlo.
Looking good.
Eric's like, now we're talking. And so in
Yeah.
another seller, I got this book for 25. It's a really nice copy. Brave and the Bold 61 with Starman and Black Canary. And I wanted to buy this one. He had it for 5 and he threw it in for free. Destroyer Duck, of course, Jack Kirby, Steve Gerber. To raise money. Marvel stole another property from another creator.
Yeah.
I got more if you want me to show more. I got plenty more.
Yeah, do 4 or 5 more.
Okay.
Mike's always got more.
I mean, this is the stack of newly stuff that came in that I haven't really done a video on. I just read this. This was really good. Really good. It's a high grade copy, but it's miscut. So I'm gonna get me another one eventually.
Okay.
Oh, you'll love this one. I found this for 20 on eBay. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Yeah, boy, look at that.
Number 20 from 1943. And then I just got this
Okay.
Cool.
1946 and 1950. No, wait. 1946 and 1951.
Nice.
Do I have that right? I think I have that right. They turned it into a Christmas issue with the little Christmas trees.
Okay.
I got this. And like I said, here's one that I got, and it's beat up.
Wow, yeah. Really cool cover.
I think I paid $20 for it. I got
So what's what's the history on Phantom? I mean, how many different companies did he go through?
I mean, if you're not counting modern, not too many. David McKay up until Harvey, and then up until David McKay, and then Harvey took over the licensing. And then it was Gold Key.
Gold Key, then Charlton, then King.
Yeah.
Then DC, Marvel had them for just a tad, and then back to DC or something.
Wow. That's incredible.
The Dynamite's got him now, I think.
Probably. And then, of course, he's international, so who knows?
This is a safety issue, how to apply mouth to mouth.
Okay.
This is I'm working on a trade with Black Block, Silver, and Bronze. He wants this book
because of the train.
Yeah.
Train cover.
It's a really scarce Canadian white. So we're working on a trade. That's it.
Okay.
All right.
Very good.
Oh wait, one more.
All right.
You can't forget about this one. Oh my goodness. This is like I couldn't believe that I found this. I didn't know what it was, and I saw it. I researched it really quick. It's a pretty scarce book. Early 4-color. What is this? Number 62, 1942. She gathers up the neighborhood kids and they form protect the home front for the war, providing service to the neighbors and everything, and making sure, I guess, the Nazis don't come to shore. I don't know. I haven't read it yet.
Digging Jap maps.
But really cool though. And there's a coloring book on eBay right now for like $10 or something. From
That's
19. I'm not into coloring books, but I thought that was cool.
Very neat.
All right.
Now, Jackson, you're primarily silver and bronze. Am I getting that right?
Bronze and somewhat copper.
Okay.
So 70s and some of the 80s, but really, like I said, my focus now is probably more on bronze, either individual books or trades that collect the stories. Although, if anybody's seen my Instagram pics from this past Christmas, I started dabbling in collected editions of newspaper strips. So I'm kind of, again, coming back full circle. I started with peanut strips, and now I'm looking at more serious strips like Modesty Blaze and Secret Agent Corrigan was the other one I got.
So you say the fossils have made you spend more money. If somebody shows you a golden age, does it in any way tempt you, or you just primarily
take a potty break?
Oh well, thank you for sharing. Well, but when you see a gold, does it tempt you, or do you go, I just don't want to go down that trail?
You know, I was tempted, and due to the fossils, due to other people like again, Comic Mag Musings, Bub's World or Bub's Comics, where I think you went back to.
Right.
Bub is a big fan of Planet Comics, and I thought, oh, those are awesome covers. And here's a company that's produced hardcovers, and now they're coming out with soft covers, and they call them softies of the PS art books. And let me get a couple of these. Now I'm going to go ahead and experiment, get the first 2 volumes, and see if I like them. And thought if it doesn't work out, he was on the fence. Bob was on the fence on whether he wanted to get the hardcovers or soft covers. So I said, well, let me check it out. And honestly, the covers are absolutely fantastic, but I found the art on the inside and the stories so. And I don't know if this is. I mean, I can't say that about all Golden Age, because this is most of my exposure was these Planet Comics. So I wound up sending those books to Bob, and that way said, there, you can decide, do you want to go, if you get the hardcover, you can then weigh the difference between the two, and didn't cost you anything on the soft cover. So I've seen a lot from Comic Mag Musings, and again, the covers are fabulous. But now I did get the one recent EC trade reprint, the Science Fiction and Fantasy, I believe, was a book, and I haven't opened that one up yet. So I'm anxious to see what those are like. But then there again, those were only 7 titles bound in this one book. Hopefully, it looks fine, and it's so I'm still on the fence. I'm not quite sure. I haven't had read or seen enough. I do have one big shot. I did get a big shot, 1949. And again, it's nice. I'm It's the oldest thing I've got. I think the nearest oldest thing is probably from '63. I did have Action Comics, but it was so beat to heck that it went back in the '80s. Yeah. Oops.
What happened there?
Okay, I can take a hint. I'll shut up now.
No. I heard it. I thought it was coming from you. It was
No,
like an
not from me.
echo.
Not from me.
Michael Taylor, his. It is clean last night. Yeah, I saw some of that.
Yeah.
Good books. So if it was Golden Age, Jackson, you might dip your toe in the water for a sci-fi, like a weird science title, not
Yes.
so much Vault of Horror or Crypt or anything like that.
Again, I haven't seen enough of those. I don't know.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, no pressure. I keep talking about Golden Age. We're helping people to understand who you are, and so this is what I'm doing.
If it's EC, I'd be on the same page. I have virtually no interest in the horror titles, but I love to have the compilations of the science fiction stories. Maybe the war stories as well. But the horror in general doesn't really attract me. I collected a lot of info on pre-Marvel Marvel, and there's that period throughout the 1950s. There were a couple of anthologies which started out with space travel, science fiction. They all morphed into what they called weird science. Stayed there for about 4 or 5 years, and it was only after the code started that they went back to doing more proper science fiction themed stories. Even though there was still a lot of morality tales, some supernatural. It was science fantasy in the sense that there was no technology and there were things that could only happen with a supernatural bent because whatever they were doing wouldn't work. But usually, when I was young, I was more attracted to the aesthetics of science fiction than to the aesthetics of fantasy, for example. So anything that looked futuristic was more my game, and the aesthetics of what they considered futuristic in the 1950s and 60s is actually something that attracts me a lot because we've been through a lot of the things that they considered would be the future. We've passed a bunch of years that they mentioned in the stories, and of course, where are my flying cars?
Exactly. Exactly. Oh yeah, the 50s view of the future is so cool. I do like that.
Well, it seems like we were on a trek to get to that level, and then something happened. It's like people said, "No, we need to be involved in social issues, or we need to go over here, Korea, and just got totally off the rails." I think we were heading to colonizing the moon and stuff like that, but they realized there's no money in it. They quickly bailed.
Good point.
What's the commercial? And we got to the moon and found it wasn't made of cheese. We never went back.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen The Man on the Moon? The silent film?
Oh yeah, the French film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, is there a movie about the guy who created that film?
Yeah.
With
that was really good.
Yeah, with Ben Kingsley, right?
I don't remember. I remember seeing it though. I know it was good.
John Goras, I think that the movie you're thinking about would be Valerian in the City of a Thousand Planets. It's kind of weird because whenever the Europeans pick up on that slick futuristic design of the 1950s that you had in America, we make it drug-addled, which is kind of what happens in Valerian. And what ends up with stuff like the Incal. The Incal, which was written by Alejandro Jodorowsky with art by Mobius.
Yeah.
One of the things that Horror Mike has been talking about in his videos about Heavy Metal magazine.
Now, that was one thing that I never did get. Were any of the heavy metals? I got Epic illustrated, but not the heavy metals, and I regret that.
Yeah.
Trying to find those early issues is.
I found number 1 in the dollar bin. Epic number 1 and heavy
the
metal,
Epic.
man.
Okay, yeah, not heavy metal.
And heavy metal.
Oh, really?
They had all the heavy metals. I got the number 1. I got some Frank Pozzetta covers, an interview, and a couple other issues that had skulls on them and stuff. That was back in the day when you could find that stuff in the dollar bin. Not too long ago, like 3 years ago.
Wow.
You can't do it now. Everything that was $1 3 years ago is $5 now.
Yeah.
It's funny how that happened like virtually overnight.
I'll tell you what's funny. Look at these bags. Can you see them? They're nasty. They're yellow. They're mangled. But every comic I pull out is like near mint. Nothing wrong with them. I'm like shocked.
That's cool. That's good.
There's the Infinity Gauntlet.
They did their job.
Yeah, so much for that hype about everybody switching their bags every 3 years or something like that.
There's a dead silverfish.
Oh, that's not good.
Well, at least it's not a goldfish. If I found a dead goldfish, it'd be even worse.
So, Apollo, did you have this title in your neck of the woods?
No.
Okay.
Ooh.
All right, Jackson, if you saw that, would you be interested in something like that?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
Yeah.
sweet.
I'm going to guess there's about 10 of those. So.
Some of those things. There's a lot of those stories in the 1950s are repetitive, but there are some things scattered around that deserve preservation. And when it comes to collecting, the thing is, it's mostly people who are aware of history who may be interested in picking up looking out for those books and picking them up, but newer readers might not be so inclined. They have no idea what to look for and where things are, exactly what's in it. And well, I watch the cartoonist Kayfabe a lot, and they usually mention something called the Japanese manga format. The one that's most used is the tankobon, and it's something it's about this size. And this is something that Marvel experimented with back in 2001. They only put out four of these: one Avengers, one Spider-Man, and 2 X-Men. And they're small. They're black and white inside. At the time, they cost $7, and they have 160 pages of story. So I'm sure. I'm sure they can't do $7 anymore, but something like this with 160 pages, maybe $10 might be better value for money than in making it available to a line of classics for new readers. That's cheaply available. They'll get people to read to actually read the stories instead of just thinking about them in monetary terms. Whether how much are they worth? What's the condition? Are they a key? This is an entire arc of stories. The stories are actually about are usually about 2 issues each, but there's a continuity going on from one story to the other. So from the beginning to the end, you feel like you went on a journey with all of the characters.
When did that come out?
These came out I think in 2001. I think. Let me just check the edition.
So something like that in your area. Can you find those in like bookstores or?
No, these only were made for the direct market. They didn't even put them out for the libraries at the time. Marvel didn't even have a strategy for the trade paperback reprints, but they just threw stuff at the wall and hoped that it stuck, and this one didn't.
Where did you pick that up?
I ordered it from the previous catalog when it came out.
What I'm trying to do with like talk to people like live in Europe is to try to find what is like it. Can you find dollar books, cheap stuff, Marvel reprints, like second print in different languages? Is that stuff that's readily available to find?
Ooh, now you have to look for it, and then it's got to be there at that day. I used to have three or four places that I knew that I could buy old comics. None of them have been active for over a decade. I don't know where to pick up our old Digest comics or the Brazilian ones.
Right.
You can't go hunting with a comic in mind, because you may not even find it. Stuff from the 80s. The last time I saw something, stuff from the 80s, the Brazilian ones have been really hard to find. You'll find a lot of the ones that were printed in Portugal that we redid the Brazilian editions for the Portuguese market with our own advertisements and our own prices because of the X-Men cartoons. So we our publisher put out X-Men and Spider-Man. Those are still relatively easy to find. After the Marvel bankruptcy, those contracts were void. A new publisher came on. They sold a lot less, so those are difficult. Those are US sized. Those are difficult to find. Stuff that has newspaper reprints, or that reprints British, Spanish, and Italian stories. I don't even know how hard it is. It's not like there's no guide for it. You just see something, try to recognize the cover. It won't be expensive. Most of those things, nobody cares about them. But I'm not even sure if you can, even if all the collectors in the country got together, I'm not sure if you could put together a complete run of certain titles, even the most popular at the time.
Well, I went to Denmark and I bought a lot of these Marvel second print, if you call them, or the foreign edition. Mm-hmm. Then they did a reprint also. So they put out a book around the time of the original. Then they reprinted a lot of the Marvel Bronze starting in like 81, 82. Mm-hmm. And I'm finding them now online that people are trying to sell them for quite a bit of money. But over there, I found a lot of that stuff just for like American dollar. So I'm trying to find out what it's like in Europe, Australia. Can these be readily available? Found in secondhand stores and stuff like that.
Yeah, you may have to go to secondhand stores that are hidden in old neighborhoods, behind an alley.
Do you have a Red Crosses over there?
No, we don't have bookstores that are franchises. Only one. There are only actually two franchise. There's only one bookstore franchise in the whole country, and it's got about 8 stores about 3 of them in Lisbon and about 5 or 6 in other places.
Okay.
You have to go to places that have books piled up. It's really dark. They have old books piled up. Most of them are cookbooks, and the owner will not speak foreign languages.
Oh boy.
Putting that in the newspaper.
What's going on, Gratu? I didn't see you pop in there.
Gratu.
Hey. Gratu.
All right, sir. Nice to meet you. Nice to talk with you.
Hey, yeah, nice to meet you. I found someone posted this on Facebook this morning. It's from the 1500s, and it's like Bible illustrations, but it's done in a comic format. Looks like something a junior high school kid would draw. But it's so this may be the next thing for you to get into, Night Tiger. collecting stuff from the 1500s.
Oh yeah, another rabbit hole.
Yeah,
That's really golden age right there. That's probably Mesozoic age or something.
The foreign comics you want to go after, Night Tiger, are those ones with the insane covers that are completely off model from like India or something, where Superman's got a red suit or something. Or German ones are really great because they're on slick paper. But I don't know why you'd go after that if you don't have all the American ones already. The Italian Horror Digest comics are pretty insane, but I don't think they would be appropriate for you.
You ever seen that Adam Hughes Supergirl Legion of Superheroes second print where she's sitting on the rock in outer space? That book goes for a lot of money, but the Italian edition goes for like half the price. It's such a beautiful cover. I was thinking about getting one of those.
Well, yeah. Oh, and those Italian, those Criminal and all those Diabolique.
What do they say? That would be the Renaissance age, Mastodon says.
I don't know. I can't even think about buying American comics. I don't have any. Any money I make, I've got to like squirrel away for medical.
Oh, you're not getting the Joker one where he's pregnant?
No.
Now, Jackson, you haven't mentioned one particular publisher. Now, be careful. You're sitting next to a guy. What do you think of Charlton?
Oh, no, I love Charlton. I ran across, again, this was going back, into the 70s and looking for anything I can find. Went to a little corner grocery store that I hadn't normally gone with my mom, and found a little rack of comics in there. And in there was an E-Man #1.
Right.
And loved it. Went back again, couldn't find any more. I think that and a Star Trek, it would have been a gold key. So this little corner store couldn't afford or didn't get the big titles, and they may have actually been a few months old, but they weren't getting DCs. They were getting the gold keys and Charltons.
Nice.
So I picked up 2 from there, and so that E-Man is still in my collection.
Cool.
Love it to death. Yeah, and
That's a good.
I'll look them up, if I can find them, and expect that they're not going to be. I mean, they're brand new off the presses was probably a 6.0, so you're not going to find them in great shapes. But but no, everyone that I've gotten a few of the Attack, I think is the name of it, war, some of the war ones, and loved them. Yeah, loved them. Good books inside and out.
Good
and
deal.
So if I find them, I'll definitely scoop them up. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Maranya, as far as the Joker, I know it wasn't actually happening to the Joker, but the fact that it was put in there is the problem. I mean, there's no. I realize I don't know. It's just that's just the way they get out of it. Oh, you're just ridiculous. It didn't really happen. Well, none of these stories really happen. But why would you put something so obnoxious in there? It's just to upset people, like this new Scooby-Doo cartoon.
Well, obviously, they're not. They
people off.
Obviously, they don't care about the character.
They can't think of anything original or good to do, so they want to just shock you into paying attention to them.
It isn't what it really is just the destruction of our culture, and it's done on purpose. A few summers ago, they tore down statues. They didn't know who the people were. They tore them down because they were old. And if something's old, it has to be bad. The new Star Wars movies, tear down the old. The old is bad. They say this is some theme. They actually say it verbally in the movie.
Someone said there's a Scooby-Doo movie where he's black. Shaggy's black, Thelma's black.
It's a TV show.
It's done only to outrage. There's no real point in even talking about it because it exists to get people angry, and then they can decry those people that are angry and righteously say those people are terrible. Well, it's just, but apparently
I say
Fred is
white power. White
well,
power,
Fred is-
honky
Fred is-
power.
they make fun of Fred's penis size in it. I mean, it's completely ridiculous, and it's just all part of a Marxist takeover. That's what I'm trying to say. Is that this is we're under it.
Say it, brother.
We're at war, and there are people trying to take down our society in any way they can, and they're in charge of a lot of. They're in charge of, Disney is right in there, and everything they own is being it, and it's a Marxist takeover, but in reality, it goes up higher up or lower down the chain. It's what is the Bible quote? We're up against powers and principalities. It's really a satanic attack on the earth, and they're trying to wipe us out and destroy our culture. And I think we're ultimately going to win. Things are starting to get a little bit better, but you can say, "Oh, that Gratu's crazy," or you can just look around and just
crazy.
Shit, what are they doing to? That's ridiculous that they're doing that to Scooby Doo.
Yep,
It's like one of the pure things from my childhood. The only thing I ever had with Scooby Doo is that none of the monsters were ever real.
Yeah.
As a kid, I wanted to at least one time let it be real, or they're not sure. That would have made it,
Michael, can you check if my comments in the main chat are being held for review? I tried to reply to John Goras about his question about criminal, but it's not appearing.
Are you doing the live chat or?
Yeah, directly in the live chat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I posted it wasn't a link. It was just the name of the website, but it's not showing up. So I don't know.
You can't put links.
That's probably what it is. I never saw it.
They won't
Gratu, I miss shows like Beretta, Mannix,
Paulo, maybe if you
shows.
put a space in between each letter. Maybe
I did, and it's not showing up anyway.
Oh boy,
the AI is going really crazy, and they're just interpreting anything.
put a smiley face in there and see if it'll do that.
I wrote dot instead of putting the dot. It's not showing up.
Okay.
Okay, but I guess I'll answer directly. John, you'll have to use the Google Translator, but the Italian Wikipedia is a good article on Criminal. It's short but informative. You can go. There's also an article about the character on the Italian website, amazingcomics.it.
Okay.
What is the character that the guy Mort Todd, Charlton Neo, bought one of those criminal type characters, and or maybe his name is Killink or something. And
yeah, there was a Killing.
American editions. I think he's changed the name. What is that character? What the deal with
might be satanic, which is different because I think there was a different satanic, but I think they used Killing for one of those was not the. Let me check.
Is that a photo like they, in this country? I don't think it's the right.
No, Fumetti is Italian for comics. The regular comics.
The way Stan Lee introduced it.
Yes, but Stan Lee was an idiot. We've already established that several times in the last 2 decades.
That's the way it was presented to me as a third grader. Fumetti's always going to be photographs with word balloons. So that's just how I interpret it. But anyway, so was that?
Killing was known as satanic outside Italy. Yeah,
and it was a photo comic.
No, it's a regular comic, black and white art.
What was the evil devil skeleton-looking guy, real violent with women with giant beehives?
That's Criminal.
Criminal. Okay, that's the one I'd want. Yeah, Diabolique was actual drawn illustrations, right?
Everything was drawn illustration. Nobody did photo comics in Italy. Everything is illustrated.
So in Italy, all the heroes are just like criminals that murder people, right?
No, the best-selling comic in Italy is Mickey Mouse. Well, but the stories are made in Italy. Here's the thing: they don't have superheroes in other countries.
They're all evil.
No, yeah, these are crime comics. The ones that got the ones that Frederick Wortham wanted to ban. These are crime comics. They're not superheroes.
Okay, but they're criminals that wear costumes.
Yeah. The thing the Diabolik is actually not a very the Diabolik was a bestseller and generated a lot of imitators, but none of the imitators was a bestseller.
But see, then
things that sold well were Western comics.
But with that philosophy, you could say Punisher is a crime comic. It's not a superhero comic.
That's
because
right.
He doesn't have powers. He just kills people.
Yeah.
But really, when you put on the costume, it becomes kind of a superhero.
If you want to see the character act heroically like a real hero should, it's in Italian comics. It's the Western title text, which is pretty close to getting to issue number 800.
Oh wow! So that started in the 40s or something, or
in 1951.
Okay, that's cool. It would be so nice if American comics could get up to high numbers, but they have to restart them constantly. Yeah. It'd be nice that's another thing. We can't have a historical legacy because restart it.
In the old story, they have 3 different reprint titles for the old stories for text.
Pretty cool.
Wow.
Has that ever been brought over here and translated? And have they ever tried to sell this text comic here?
Very, very sparingly. I know that I think that the story that was drawn by Magnus was published there. The story that was drawn by Joe Kubert was published in the U.S. as well. But usually no.
Kubert did work for the foreign market.
Just that one.
Okay.
They paid him.
I didn't know that.
Paulo,
they tried to hire Mike Deodato a few years ago, and he said no because they wanted to pay him a pittance.
Go ahead, Jackson.
Paulo, I want to go back to something you had mentioned earlier. I don't know if I misunderstood. You were talking about wanting Marvel to, reprint the titles, reprint stories.
I want everybody to reprint the titles in an affordable format.
Every
comic that has ever been published in the U.S. should be available in a cheap reprint right now.
You don't like the $100 omnibuses?
Yeah, nobody likes the $100 omnibuses.
No.
You just think they look nice, but they're $100 and you can't read them because they weigh 50 pounds.
But if you just win the lottery, you can fill your whole wall with omnibuy that are this thick, and you can get some gold chains and a backward cap and hang out with Comic Tom.
Check out my comic strip.
Look at my wall. Look at my giant collection of statues, bro.
And have 75,000 subscribers and 1 million views per day.
Yo, check my comic strip, yo. And I'm gonna start doing like the other guy wearing an alarm clock.
We need to do one Wednesday night. We need to do like the first 15-20 minutes just that way.
And make our fans go.
I don't know.
I don't know. Like you trick everyone into thinking that they're going to watch a stream about which comics they should buy.
Yeah, we should just talk about what's coming up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but make it ridiculous, like Chili,
The four-color fossils speculate because, they're old enough to know the trends, so they know how to speculate.
Yes, the little pals are coming to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Here's how if you want to do it, you should delegate who researches what, so we're all prepared and we know what we're talking about.
And Peter, the little pest.
Would it all be in sarcasm?
I'll give it
the book coming out in May is whatever. The artist.
The spider buggy's coming back. So.
I can get you should say I found these comics. Look how terrible! Look at this old golden age piece of you should just completely talk about how terrible
I can't
the
do
golden
that.
age.
I got to talk about modern. I can't talk bad.
No, it would all be people would get the joke, but it would be funny.
Yeah. One thing is, it's like Jared Osborne says in our Friday stream. The comics that the comics that are recommended in those comics investment videos are usually comics that are owned by the guys recommending them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I like Hornswoggle. Swogglewalls. He's good.
Well, I went in this comic store. Let me place when this was. It was probably the late 80s. Nobody was collecting Vampirella. I loved the Vampirella Warren comics. I was going around trying to buy Warren books in the 80s, not long after, they'd gone out of business and all that. And I was going around buying them, and you could get them for a couple of bucks each, right? So I go in, I find this one out of the wall, hole in the wall place in Dallas, and I go in there, and there's just books piled to the ceiling, and there's some guy running the shop, and he is like, it looks like this real old guy is in there occasionally. He would come in and out. It must have been his father that had opened this store probably in the 60s, and this guy was probably, I was in my 20s. He was probably in his 30s or 40s, and I was buying movie magazines from the 60s if they had anything about the Addams Family or Batman in them. But I was pulling out these Vampirellas. Nothing was priced in this place. And he was giving me these ridiculous prices. And I mentioned the Overstreet price guide. This is before the internet. And he said that Overstreet, that he said real collectors know that the Overstreet guide, that he has giant collections of these books, and he puts the prices in there to bring up the value of his books. And it's like, oh, this guy's just full of shit, with his conspiracy theories, full of shoot. I'm sorry. And, I just remember that experience and how bitter I was at this store, because he had all the Vampirellas because no one, the first couple of issues were valuable then, but the rest weren't because no one cared. I thought I was the only one in the whole Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington Metroplex that cared. And I think I was one of the only ones.
Has anyone heard of...
He says, you'd be surprised how many people come in wanting to fill their collection of Vampirella. And I'm thinking, guy, that's probably me calling you on the phone. Because one person can create the illusion that there's a big demand just by getting on eBay and calling different stores. And then everyone thinks, everyone wants that. No, it's one or two guys. And you create, and then you bring the prices up because you create this illusion to these morons that
Have any of you ever heard Doug Hazelwood?
Yeah.
No.
Because this is that $20 crate.
Yeah, he's an artist.
Whoa.
And he also signed this book.
You sure he wasn't some kid that owned that comic? He's the artist.
He's an artist.
Oh, okay. So that probably adds about a quarter value to it.
There's the whole run of the Death of Superman in here. Some second prints and everything out of this.
Do people now care about that?
I don't know. I got this box for $20, but the keys are right here.
Well, it's an anniversary, isn't it?
A newsstand Spawn, which those are hard to find, but the whole run of Infinity Gauntlet.
Oh, okay.
All high grade, and then also Wolverine #3. And then the whole every issue of the Death of the Superman. $20.
I hated that Superman stuff. I just saw that as a money grab at the time.
A Wizard half max with the COA. These bags they're just like you touch them and they break.
Yeah.
Seeing I Love Disney in the chat, I wanted you all to know he's planning to join the Fossils the first Wednesday in February. So
nice.
See him again.
Steve's an awesome dude. Oh, these bags, man, are nasty.
But yeah, somebody can maybe look up prices on whatever. Maybe Maranya knows because she was mentioning something about Marvel Masterworks. But they did relaunch a soft cover trade version of the Masterworks again a few months ago. I don't know what the prices are, but they're starting with number ones on Spider-Man, Avengers, Fantastic Four, X-Men. Again, I don't know if they're affordable. I know they are a little bit smaller size.
Yeah, they're not affordable. That's the thing.
Okay, they're not. Okay.
That thing needs to be manga priced. There's no other way around it. Okay. Either costs the same as a new manga, or there's no point in putting it out. and these guys trying to do their own thing and their own prices and their own formats. It's not getting. It's going to get stuck in the get stuck in the direct market again. It's going to be aborted after 6 or 8 issues again, and it's going to go nowhere. And it's not going to work.
That's because the kids aren't buying them. They're making them smaller, I guess, to look like manga.
Not
And
enough.
also
It has to be exactly the same. Exactly the same.
The kids won't care. I mean, I was the movies were popular.
Mm-hmm.
The kids liked them. I was working in a middle school. I told the librarian who didn't know anything about, because they were pushing on the librarians, graphic novels. That's the new thing. And they'd get these graphic novels that looked like they were drawn by someone mentally disabled, mental patient. And, about nothing, like the story of Bill Gates and his buying up, garbage. And I said, well, you should get these. Look at these here. You can get these, the very first adventures of Iron Man. And these are the stories that are now being made into movies. And then she got a few of them, and kids would check out the X-Men, Marvel Masterworks, but mostly they just didn't care, and they couldn't understand it. And there's just no, I just don't think that, with a few exceptions, the new generations are going to buy into this. They like the Japanese stuff, and that's mainly a girl audience, and that's why they're desperately trying to go after a girl audience.
That's not true. The best selling
everybody into a girl.
The best selling manga is a horror title.
Yeah,
it is not for girls.
Well, girls like the horror stuff, they just throw in all that Twilight garbage, they've always liked that. Back to Barnabas Collins, it's always, girls have loved the guy that's tortured and tormented but will kill you. I don't know.
No, it's actual horror, like Lovecraft squared.
Yeah,
it's not for girls.
Yeah,
girls who like manga want to see men having homosexual relations.
Well, here's the deal: people don't read. That's really I hate to be the cynic. I'm always the cynic, and everyone else is saying, "But look at this crowdfunded book that sold 46 copies. Look, the whole industry's turning around." No, it's no one reads. Yeah. That's why there's not even magazines anymore. So I don't know what you're gonna do.
Ethan Van Sciver is not a comic book creator. He's a YouTuber who creates comic books on the side.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've never read any of his work. I see his artwork; it looks good. But
it's very good. I love this Green Lantern.
Cyber Frog comic doesn't interest me. I maybe it's good, but it has to be somewhere where I can just pick it up instead of, sending him $30-$40. Then he'll send me a book in a year. I don't know how all that works.
Yeah, and when he from the early prices, your boy Zach, Diversity in Comics, he tried to do something that was 100 pages in the hardcover. He ended up doing soft covers. And what Ethan is doing is a 48-page stapled comic that costs $25. That's stupid.
Can I make an observation?
Mm-hmm.
Before the Gerber sleeves, there were Ziplocs.
And before that, there were supermarket bags.
Yeah.
Saran
wrap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before that, they were just stacked up. The ones that were the best.
Look, runs. Your favorite comic, Savage Dragon #1, Image.
Look, I don't know enough to hate that. I have some issues. I like of it. I like the artwork in the Max and Savage Dragon, but I can't say I've ever really read it. I understand that Savage Dragon has had some.
I think he was based on what's his name, Clint Eastwood in those cop movies.
Okay.
Magnum Force.
Yeah, I know that stuff has like no value, but maybe it will at some. But it hasn't gone up like I think.
Only the newsstands have value, really.
Well, the creator of that Savage Dragon, he seems like a really nice guy if you follow him on Twitter. I mean, I don't
Eric Larson.
Why have you been banned too? Have you been blocked?
from the beginning, like in 2013 or 2014 on Facebook, is when I discovered that there were all these crazy leftists in my hobby. And I was like,
not in Facebook.
And then it's like the thing where you should never meet your heroes. And I discovered that like half of the people that I liked were like complete communists.
Well, that's normal in artistic communities. Everybody's a lefty because they have the artistic spirits, and they must be free to explore ideas and connect with humanity and stuff like that.
Yeah, but now to be free, you got to be on the other side of the aisle, really.
Well, Stan Lee got involved with Hillary Clinton, and that was a real bad scene. There's some crooked guy was using Stan Lee's name to put together some big giant concert, or it was some big thing where it was all a ripoff, and Stan Lee's name was attached to it because he needed a celebrity, and that was back several decades ago. That was a real. But he was all really excited to be there with Hillary Clinton, who's like an actual witch. Like, no kidding.
She's a bit, and he's a witch.
Yeah.
Ooh, look what I got, guys. Sparkly.
Oh, that's okay.
He's got the mullet.
Yeah.
I've been trying to search down what is the issue that he first has that. Is it the one where he comes back?
I think it's that Wonder Woman cover, isn't it?
I'd like to find it and go, oh, I got this huge key. First long hair Superman.
First long hair Superman and first regenerative armor. So that black costume you wore.
Oh, yeah. I found the electric blue glow in the dark one. I just found that in the dollar bin, and it has Dan Jurgens and Joe Rubenstein's signature in silver ink right on that black cover. It looks really cool.
But the glow in the dark one to get is Radioactive Man, the Simpsons comic, where he's got the bomb going off behind it. That thing really works.
Mike triggered something with I don't know if anybody else will remember Electric Blue when he said that. It's like, oh yeah, that takes me back to the 80s. And scrambled cable stations.
$2 or $3.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. I mean, I don't like SIGs, but I think those look cool on there.
Huh. The ironic thing is that the only Electric Superman story worth reading is in JLA, in Grant Morrison's JLA. He has Superman moving the moon with his electric powers.
That's cool.
Then he wrestles a renegade angel.
A renegade angel, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
From the Bull host. They were trying to get one of the cool angels who fell in love with a mortal.
So what is DC's philosophy on angels? How do they
do they make for cool characters? Yes.
Well, I mean, so if they're angels, what are they according to the DC universe? What?
They're guys that the JLA fought. That's the whole point. It doesn't matter what they are philosophically. They were there so that Superman could kick the crap out of one.
Why are angels like in DC or
there are good. Well, I see.
Show Supernatural. Why are angels always villains that have to be fought?
Because only humans are good. Everyone else is evil. Haven't you seen haven't you seen all those 50s alien movies?
So it seems all like they're making a religious statement because normally people associate angels and not the fallen angels, but angels as being good. That's kind of how most people are brought up. So why would you want to make angels in TV shows and comic books that are the children's medium? And I know people hate to admit that, but at least back then that was still aimed at kids.
Well, in the Old Testament, angels are pretty destructive.
Destructive to good people? I don't think so. But
everything goes.
Yeah, I just don't.
The bad guy.
Batman was an angel.
And so was the Punisher once.
Amazing.
Okay. Well, it
After
just
being a
shows-
mobster, the Punisher kills himself and becomes an angel.
On a similar note, and to bring Jackson back into this, Jackson, did you ever read The Spectre?
Nice.
I have that first one, the adventure comics.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had that
All you
one,
need. Yeah.
and
He
I
goes
decided-
around like an avenging angel to some degree, but go ahead.
Right.
But yeah, I like that. I actually like that concept. I have that one, and then from that I decided to get there were reprints made, deluxe reprints they called them in the 80s, and I tracked down. I think there's 4 of those that have that run from the Adventure Comics, plus 1 or 2 issues that they had created, but what the title was changed over to the next character before those 2 saw print. So this 4-issue series, the 4th issue actually completes or has more in it than was originally published. I haven't read those yet. If you speak to me anytime long enough, you'll find that I have a huge stack of books that I still have yet to read. But I grab them when I find them, because I want to make sure I get them at a good price before they're gone or whatever. Especially when we're talking about trades going and out of print so quickly. But I like the concept. I have there was a short, an animated short made for the Spectre that I thought was brilliant. It takes the form of a 70s cop type of show. I mean, they have the movements, the camera movements, the grain, the thing. It's to simulate 70s shows, and what he does to the bad guy in this is just beautiful. So
Nice.
I think it's attached to one of the animated full length movies. But then they also made a DVD or Blu-ray of just the shorts, the showcase. I think it's called Showcase, and it's Superman versus Captain Marvel, and then there's 3 shorts from the Showcase series, and that's on there. If you're not interested in too many of the animated movies, at least look for that one because you get some variety. You get Green Arrow and Black Canary, and Jonah Hex was the other short, and I thought all 4 of those were perfect. The different styles. Each one of them is in different styles, but I love the characters of Jonah Hex and the Spectre. Definitely love the Avenging Angel character. Yep.
Very cool.
If you're just joining us, we're getting to know Jackson Roykirk, the international man of mystery, and you can go back and see all that he's done. I can encapsulate it real quick. If you don't want to go back to watch it, he's an old guy who doesn't like Gil Kane, so pretty much standard right there. So
When you're talking about angels,
well, that's a requirement to be a fossil, is what
That's
I
right.
understand.
what is
By the
it?
way, speaking of men of mystery, we have Gore Vidal in the chat. Gore Vidal last year finally did a face reveal. Now he's appearing everywhere. So one of these days, Jackson, you too will have to do a face reveal.
I need to, yeah. Scare everybody off. I know.
Because if Gore Vidal can do it, so can you.
Yeah. And he's nothing like his avatar. I was surprised, really. Nobody. Somebody mentioned it the other day about people's voices and the reveal. For anybody who's been around long enough, the night that Roger revealed himself, and most people said, "Oh, you didn't." I said, "Nobody looks like their voice. I don't know what it is. No one looks like their voice for some reason." And you would think after decades, living long enough and hearing people and seeing people, you would know, or why is it? It's just fascinating. I love audio. That's why I'm primarily focused on just using the mic, and I've restrained myself.
I'm
from
imagining
using
you look like
sound
Tom
effects.
Selleck or something.
You got it. Oh man, that's perfect. That's it. But yeah, it's amazing how people generally, when you see them, radio personalities, you get to hear somebody on the radio for 10, 15 years, and then you see them as like, wait, who is that?
I was just going to say that,
amazing.
Steve. After Comics probably feels that we will all be let down tremendously, but there is a photograph of him if you look hard enough. Yeah,
Steve Cobble didn't match my expectations either. No, when Steve revealed himself, he was totally different than I thought he looked.
There's a bunch of photos
a
and
Tom Selleck
videos of
book.
After Comics because he's a famous radio show host.
He was, I think, he was TV anchor for a little while too.
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
video
yeah.
of him.
Yeah, he showed a video of himself once doing the news.
I haven't seen that. Yeah,
But
that's
those aren't
remember-
recent though. That's another thing. You know,
I
he's
remember
he's
a few years ago on
fooling us.
Instagram, there was this guy who was posting this really weird stuff like from the 50s, pictures, postcards, and movie posters. I'm like, who the heck is this guy? And then I found him on YouTube. It was Gratu.
oh.
I have people still ask me, who's this guy on Instagram? He's posting these pictures from the 50s and the 60s. And I'm like, oh, that's Gratu. Everybody just be quiet now.
we're processing it all.
Have you never followed him on like years ago when he first on Instagram, his posts?
No, I just saw him on YouTube first. I saw Gratu on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm not sure when I started on it. I was on Instagram, but I wasn't really doing much with it. I think maybe I started with. I don't really remember when I started putting stuff on Instagram.
Well,
Yeah,
gentlemen,
but-
the wife is calling me, and dinner's just made, so I gotta go.
All right, Mike.
We thank you, Night Tiger,
All
for
right,
joining
yeah.
us.
Thanks for letting
Thank you,
me
buddy.
hang out.
Later,
Nice.
Mike.
We're fulfilling Jackson's secret desire to meet all of us personally.
Okay.
But yeah, what was I talking about?
John Goris in the chat, the Jonah Hex movie. You said you heard it was okay. My mother-in-law liked it, but she's never heard of the comic book. I think people that liked that movie have no idea it's a comic book. If you've read the comic, it's terrible. Now that actor, the guy that played Thanos and everything, and he could have been a great Jonah Hex. It's just they decided to not. It should have been like a spaghetti western. It should have. They decided to give him superpowers. Where I think he could talk to the dead,
for a few
and
minutes.
stuff like that. I never really watched more than a few minutes of it. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I can't take that.
Imagine how the producers meeting went down. If he's a comic book character, he's got to have superpowers.
I don't know if any of you are like me in that when I read comics when I was like in 4th, 5th grade, I would have music playing. I would picture these panels as movies. I would picture the voice. I would hear the voices. I would hear background music, like imagining these as movies. That's why it was so cool when these Marvel movies started. This is what and I would imagine, I had this soundtrack album that was my older brother's from about 1970 for the soundtrack of Airport. And the opening theme to that was just so amazing. And I imagine that's how a Fantastic Four movie would start, with the airport theme. And later when you hear the main theme to Honor Majesty's Secret Service, that's how a superhero movie should start. Or if you have an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, it should have a theme like that. Well, I don't know if you've heard the theme to Honor and Majesty's Secret Service. It's the only instrumental theme. No, it isn't the only instrumental James Bond theme, but it's a great one. It's just amazing. And there's no themes like that now. Yeah, after you've heard it enough times, the Avengers theme gets in your head. But I have to stop and think about it. How does it go again? It's not like the Raiders of the Lost Ark theme or the James Bond 007 theme, where you just think of it as Star Wars Superman. It's instantly floods your mind. No one can do that anymore. And they try to crank out this Danny Elfman idiot because he did the Batman '89 soundtrack great, and then all he can do is just that over again. And all that was him, a little pastiche of the themes to the movie serials from the 40s. I mean, I don't mean he's an idiot. I mean, it's like they overuse him, and all he does is the same thing over and over again.
But I'll go along with you talking about things that I collected. Soundtracks were one during the 70s. I mean, of course, everybody who didn't have the Star Wars theme, the 2-album set, and so that's how my love of soundtracks and those days, glory days there from 76 to 82, 83 or so like that. with all the
remember
John
what that.
Williams, the Jerry Goldsmith, all of those type of things. You don't hear that anymore. And what about, you know, my love, you know, and Micah as well, the Star Trek, the original series, how memorable all of those cues and themes are that you didn't get even in when they brought it back, when the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and the producers told the composers, don't make it like that. Leave it as just background noise. We don't want anything to take away from our characters, from our actors. And so what you create is this bland stuff. So I would assume that's kind of what's going on with movies now, is that we want the actors up front and prominent with no distinguishable themes anymore. Like
That, or they just don't have the talent to do it.
well, both. Well, yeah.
I don't think there's anyone.
I like Michael Giacchino. I forget his name. But he did the John Carter of Mars movie soundtrack, and he's done the Star Trek. He, you know, the reboot, the J.J. Abrams versions. And as much as I don't like those movies, I will say the first movie had a great theme, and the John Carter of Mars music is very reminiscent of Williams. So maybe he's copying him a little bit.
But I can't remember it. I
You're right.
like the movie, but I can't remember the theme. It wasn't.
But too, another thing is, you know, how many times have you watched it? Because I'll admit I've only seen it twice. I remember liking it and remembering wanting to look for the CD, which is now out of print and too expensive. But I haven't queued up the movie enough times for the theme to kind of soak in.
Because it wasn't quite there.
Wasn't enough. It's not
been
enough.
Like a movie like the first Star Wars that you could have watched over and over again. And it was they just didn't get it quite right. And then they tried to bring in all this stuff from the later books, and I think to the average person the ending was probably confusing, and they were assuming there were going to be sequels, and I don't know. It was really good, but you know, it was a better attempt than Doc Savage. It was like almost, man, you almost, but not quite. I don't know.
I see. I love Disney with his comment in there. As you like Flash Gordon because you hear it so much every Wednesday night on this show.
I've been giving him a break from that. That's why.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't reading the chat. Let's see here. Well, the Flash Gordon movie, when it came out, was a weird experience. You know, I really loved it, but there was a few little things that were creepy about it. But the opening theme was great, and seeing the Alex Raymond art, and there were just a little bit of the throwbacks to Barbarella because of De Laurentiis, and I really didn't like the hair of Flash Gordon. It should have. I just wish it had been set in the 30s. And the bit, you know, and it was of course written by one of the main Batman 66 writers, and that's when it goes to the football game and she's going, "Go Flash, go!" Oh God.
I got my wife to watch it up until that point, and then she cut out. Yeah. So I wish it wasn't in the movie.
I could trim little bits here and there.
The music was great though during that scene.
Yeah,
I love the music. That's the only reason I like that scene, because the music was phenomenal.
But it was it just wasn't. I don't think it made much money, and but it was an interesting. It was interesting. You know, that was, if that movie didn't exist, that's what inspired Alex Ross his whole career, is that movie. But it took balls to do that, to make it look, I hate to use the word retro, but give it that look, but you know, It really looked like they did the research for that somehow. I think that Lorenzo Simple Jr. did research by watching the Dirty Flesh Gordon parody, because it follows that plot very closely, and in the feel of the movie, it's very close to the Dirty version. I don't know. You have to watch it and see. Even the opening credits are a lot like. I'll tell you what, the opening theme to Flesh Gordon is great. It really sounds like an old movie serial. And I don't know if that's library music. I don't think it is, because they have little no, I think that's original composition for that movie. And it's like the behind the scenes people really tried to make that a real Flash Gordon movie. I mean, his costume, everything looks a lot closer in that version than the official De Laurentiis movie that came along 8 years later. Oh well. But nothing beats Buster Crabbe. And even kids today will get into that. I would show during lunch inner city kids this would have been in the 2000s, the Flash Gordon, Buster Crabbe serials, and they would get into it. Even though it's black and white, at first they might balk. It was because it's quick, fast paced, and they just got into it. And they like the old King Kong too. Some things will work if you can get them to sit still and get past the black and white. Then if they're intelligent. But yeah, so I mean,
I'm going to take off, guys. Thanks, Micah. Thanks so much for having me. And it was great to meet you, Jackson, and hear about your collecting history, and of course, seeing everybody. Good to see you guys.
Thank you for coming, Meyer. I appreciate it.
I need to watch all that on the replay.
Talk to you guys later.
Sure.
All right. Let's see you, Meyer.
And it is kind of getting about that time. I'm probably going to have to make an appearance out there in the real house. So,
All right.
But I want to thank the fossils that came out to see Jackson and make him feel appreciated. Even Night Tiger came in. That was great. Jackson, this community really likes you, and we're glad you're in the community, and we want you to keep it up and keep on doing what you're doing. You're a joy to be. Jambo, we'll have to tell him how great this was.
Or he boycotted the video. But, no, I thank all of you. It's been great putting up with my little comments in the chat. I try not to be a troll. I try not to be too but I feel a bond with everybody, and that's what I said. This was so great that I ran across Captain Strangelove, and then he led me to this one and that one. Finally, it's like, wow, people who like these 4-color books. I mean, it's amazing.
You bet.
Everybody's been so welcoming, and to each other, to me, and it's just it's a great community. I'm glad to be part of it. I'm sorry if I rambled on a little too long. For my history. I was a teacher from 89 to 96. To the end of 96, I taught basic entry-level computer skills. The new thing in the 80s was those PCs, these microcomputers, and I taught those basic skills to visually impaired and blind students using speech access. And that's where I learned to just keep rambling and rambling. So
that's my problem.
I hope it must be it's an instructor.
It's a survival skill.
You have to know. You have to keep speaking in order to keep them awake or whatever. And although we used to make the reason why I say I like audio stuff is I would record a lot of the instructional materials to students since they lost their sight later in life. They hadn't built up skills to read Braille, and so I would record all of the instructional materials, like just definitions of terms and things, and have some of the 20 and 30-year-old women come and say, "Oh yeah, I fell asleep to you last night." I'm like, oh, "Okay, all right. I don't know exactly how to take that, but okay."
It's very soothing.
But yeah. So I thank you again, Michael, for including me, or for asking me for this. And
Sure.
it's been great. I'm so glad we didn't have any glitches like we had. Right, this thing was acting fine for 2 hours before, and then 2 o'clock hits, and it starts going off.
There you go.
For those who are wondering,
great.
Who are other people in the chat that we haven't actually met yet? We've got John Goris on camera now, and
Michael Taylor.
Oh yeah, Michael Taylor's always in the chat.
A lot of these you've met Go Ahead or Go Away.
Yeah, Go Away came on a couple of live streams. Yeah.
No,
Marania can come on a live stream if she promises to take out the
tree.
The
yeah.
Well, she's appeared
the
on
zombie
the
tree.
We've seen her.
Sure.
I mean, who have we never actually seen or talked to?
Movie World. Movie World made an appearance today. It's been a long time seeing him.
Fireball.
Yeah. Lead Paint. So
Lead Paint. Yeah, we haven't ever met Lead Paint on here.
Too bad the puppets aren't here because
they were invited. They were invited
because the last Fantastic Four reading you did. The next time Wyatt Wingfoot shows up, he needs to speak with an Indian accent, as Indian from India. That's the only thing you haven't done yet.
That would be fun.
I did it like Tonto, but
but the next time, hello, I'm Wyatt Wingfoot.
Yes.
Hello,
something like that.
I'm glad to be part of the Fantastic Four.
Yes. There you go.
Yeah,
you should be on the geeky puppets.
I still have to watch last night's Star Wars. It's going to be interesting. So anyway,
with that being said, we better get out of here soon. So
all right.
On behalf of everybody, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Paulo. Thank you, Gratu.
Glad to be here. Nice meeting you, Jackson.
Thank you,
nice
Jackson.
Nice meeting all of you, and thank you very much.
And he's correct. It is good that everything worked out. We were having a little bit of trouble. That's why we were running late. But I think it all went great, and I hope to do this again maybe next year. So we'll see you in January. But don't forget to tune in Wednesday night for the Four Color Fossils. Don't forget to check out all these guys have channels. Check out Meyer Greenblatt's channel. Did a car episode just about 20 some hours ago. So anyway, good night and happy drawing.
Bye, everybody.